Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Tony Beaman with another edition of BlackInc.tv. And I'm going to get right into it because we got a lot to get into today with phenomenal guests I can't wait to talk to. Mr. Zwede Hewitt from Trinidad and Tobago, which I didn't even understand this. I didn't know this, that it's actually one of the wealthiest countries in the Caribbean, thanks to its large reserves of oil and gas. But he graduated there from the Queen's Royal College before going to Baylor University on a full scholarship. But let me tell you a little bit more now. I mean, Zwede is a former Olympian. He is, my gosh, he is an All-American in the outdoor 4x400, the indoor 4x400, and he's multi-year All-American. I could spend all day, my whole show, giving an introduction. But then, most recently, had went on to attend Draper University under the famed Tim Draper. And we're going to talk a lot about that as well. But Mr. Draper was so impressed that he has appointed Mr. Hewitt to do some stuff there in the Caribbean that we're going to talk about as well. But oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our show. And thank you for being here, Mr. Zwede Hewitt. Thank you for being here on BlackInc.tv.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity. And I mean, happy to share some insight in my journey. And I hope that it could be an inspiration, but also learn from what you guys have been up to, what you've accomplished. And yeah, this is quite an honor. I think that more of these stories need to be told. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you. I mean, oh my gosh, there's so much to get to, you know. I mean, I feel like I haven't when I researched a lot of your accomplishments, it's like, oh my goodness, tell us about your journey from Trinidad and Tobago to Baylor, and some of the stuff that really inspired you growing up there to accomplish the stuff that you've accomplished. Oh my gosh.
Well, I am currently in Trinidad and Tobago right now, by the way, just to say this. But I was born and raised in Trinidad. My background was predominantly track and field. So I ran track, I was fast. I was running since I was probably like 8 years old. And that led to where I was like regional champion across the Caribbean. I was world ranked as a junior in track and field. But my story to get to the States and get to Baylor University was quite interesting. It was actually through a business arrangement that led to the interest in my scholarship. So my dad, he's an entrepreneur. He was and still is, for the past 16 years, he has been the distributor for track and field equipment across the Caribbean, being the sole distributor for one of America's largest manufacturers of sport and track and field equipment, right? Gill Athletics. So shout out Gill. That's a Chicago-based company. They're involved in everything track and field. So our family business, we have been distributors for Gill Athletics for the past 16 years throughout the entire Caribbean. One of the co-owners or one of the co-founders of Gill, their family, their dad, they went to Baylor University. Long story short, Gill Athletics is the sponsor of Baylor University Track and Field. My dad was distribution for Baylor. Baylor at the time was the top 400-meter school in the nation. Previously, we had the ranks of like Michael Johnson, Jeremy Warren. We were on like a 4x4 winning streak. So Baylor was called Quarter Mile U. Long story short, my dad was speaking to the head coach at Baylor, and they were literally like, hey, you have a business affiliated relationship with our organization. If your son runs 46 anything, he gets a full scholarship. The next year I ran 46.04. I got a full scholarship to Baylor. I never applied. So that was kind of me getting to Baylor. I started Baylor. I mean, I was on full scholarship, so my focus was really on track and field, but also, I mean, I was good. I mean, I was fairly intelligent. So I was enrolled in the business school. I dropped out of the business school to pursue track and field a bit more seriously. Baylor had a really demanding business school. So, actually, I was pulled into the dean's office at the end of my first semester. And I was speaking to our dean and the preliminary entry professor to the Hankamer School of Business for Baylor University. I was on the verge of failing that initial business school, and the outcome, professor said, I'll teach you a harsh lesson. If there's one thing, business waits on no one. I would recommend you to pick between track and field and an easier degree to provide a smooth sailing through your collegiate experience. I dropped out of the business school, but I chose communications, right? So my degree is in communication. My dad, good advice. He said that if you can pursue understanding and learning business through theory, learn communications that allow you to communicate and connect with people and develop relationships. That then would allow you to have exponential growth through the learning processes of businesses through life experience. So my dad's second step to business was become an efficient communicator. So I did speech communication. That was my degree. Still pursued track and field, competed professionally for a couple of years, went on to win a bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games 2014. But throughout my track and field career, I would have qualified and competed at pretty much every level of sport, the Olympic Games, World Championships, Commonwealth Games, NCAA Division I track and field finals, shit, you name it. So that was previously my life until I got into business. So yeah, that is my story on track and field.
Wow, this way. We've got a few things in common, man. You know, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with Baylor University, man, because you know, I'm a Razorback. I went to the University of Arkansas. And, you know, at the time I went to school there in the mid 80s. You know, at the time I went to school there, you know, actually Arkansas had been #1 in track and field for, you know, many years, you know. And,
correct. Very true.
You know, oh yeah. You know,
very true.
And, you know, I've been to Baylor and stuff. And, you know, it's so funny because when you were mentioning that about business school, you know, I remember going to college and exact same thing, man. You know, I was in business, you know, but once I got to accounting 1 and 2, and I think it was statistics, I changed majors, man, over to journalism because you know, yeah. But man, I gotta ask you, man, Beijing. One of the most iconic Olympic opening ceremonies in history. And you were there as an athlete on, what was that like, man? I mean, that's incredible.
I mean, my Beijing experience was bittersweet. I went to Beijing as a young athlete. I think I was 18 at the time when I qualified for the Olympics. But in a pre-Olympic camp, I got hurt. So that kind of dampened my mood throughout the experience of being there, but not being able to actually run. But I was there for the entire Olympic Village, the opening ceremony, the entire experience. So it was phenomenal, but it was always like a bittersweet experience for me because I didn't actually get to compete at Beijing, you know. But I mean, that paved the way for a whole lot of life experiences that I was able to, you know, convert, I would say, that failure into a lot of learning lessons moving forward, you know. And then also, most importantly, it established to me a very, very powerful network that I was able to leverage moving forward throughout my life. So a real story. And this is actually saved on an email chain, right? This year, I reached out to Usain Bolt for a potential business opportunity. And as you would know, as an effective communicator or even someone who is presenting a business, you look for context, right? Context in terms of how can you connect to this person, how you can relate your product or service to them effectively. My context was Olympic experience. So real story, after the 2008 Olympics, I went to the club with the Caribbean contingent. Long story short, after the club, I was in the cab back to the Olympic Village with Usain Bolt, Asafa Powell, and one other like Jamaican. And I was just like a young Trini in a cab and Usain Bolt was like all the way tuned up, having fun in the cab. And that was my story to actually relate back to him for a business venture over a decade later. So my email to Usain Bolt and his management team was literally, hey guys, I'm ex-Zwede Hewitt working on this. However, I would like to relate an actually funny story that relate back in 2008. And I related that entire cab experience, and that was the context that had that reminiscent factor that really opened the door for that reconnection to Usain Bolt. You know what I mean? So a lot of great takeaways, even though, again, I wasn't able to compete, unfortunately. The experiences of actually physically being there, having memorabilia from the Olympic Games was actually fantastic as well. And then the connections, so that was an eye-opening experience for me and something that I will definitely keep with me. And definitely part of molding and shaping who I am today.
We fast forward a little bit and you get to come out here, because I'm out here in Oakland, basically the North Silicon Valley-ish area, but you get to come out to the iconic Plug and Play Center. I've been over there, and wow, man, you get a spot of the Plug and Play Center. Talk about that, the whole experience, and not only that, but I mean, I want to learn more about, this whole thing with Tim Draper, man. I mean, this is an individual. Oh my God, Tim Draper, the most famous venture capitalist out here in the Silicon Valley, and here you are, you come here to the U.S., and you accomplish this at such a young age. Oh my gosh, wow! Talk about that, man.
All right, sure. Yeah, I mean, life experiences first and foremost as I go back. 2008, 2017, I was winding on my track and field career. Some injuries, and I got into entrepreneurship. Had another failure, and I got into technology, and that was kind of the genesis for everything. Compiling my life experiences, but my interest in technology. I had an idea for a mobile app. It was called Luhu. Luhu, it means let us help you. And that idea really stemmed again from my life experiences, being able to travel the world at a very young age. I even pull up something to show you really quick, right? And this is going to be important in terms of the future of what we're building. But this coin, right? So this is a Beijing Olympic 2008 coin, official memorabilia that was given to athletes. But the interesting story behind it was that they created 60,000 of these coins. This was pre-Bitcoin, right? Pre-Bitcoin, they created this gold coin that was actually legal tender. So this coin is aimed to serve as legal tender. So interestingly enough, as a fact, it has the property values of like the actual metals. So it has like real gold, real silver, some real bronze. But these coins have astronomically driven up in value because of scarcity. There's an article that was released in 2018 announcing these coins, right? This was 2006, before Bitcoin. 2008, I got these coins. Cryptocurrency Bitcoin came in 2009. Maybe I have a conspiracy theory that this Bitcoin stuff kind of came from China, following up the creation of these coins for the Olympic Games, because leading fast forward now into 2018, I am aiming to create Luhu, which is a social platform that facilitates people to engage, barter services, and shop. So like a Caribbean super app or a super app for social engagement, which involved, voila, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, some sort of token. So life experiences that I had from back in 2008 from receiving a real token that was in limited supply, that had a value attached to it, but was not just digital. So this coin kind of created a eureka moment for me in terms of, hey, there's value behind creating like a currency and attaching it to an ecosystem. So that was the idea behind Luhu, and creating technology solutions for the Caribbean and at large diaspora. So I was in Trinidad and Tobago at the time, set out on a journey to create an app that facilitated, just like WeChat again. WeChat was created out of China. That is a Chinese super app. I've been to China. So creating something that serves and support the Caribbean people to support financial inclusion, ease of access for shopping, and just general digitization. I saw a massive need for platforms such as like, there's Venmo / Cash App in the States, integrating that technology into the Caribbean. There weren't any resources as such to support in terms of me executing this venture in the Caribbean. There is no such thing as venture capital in the Caribbean. I will get to that at a later point, right? We actually created history with our company on that, but previously, there's no such thing as venture capital in the Caribbean. But then also in 2008, you would not find app coder like that in the Caribbean. You will find no advisors. So I left Trinidad pre-pandemic. So all of 2019 and stuff was really me spent networking. I spent extensive time between Boston, Manhattan, California, just attending pitch competitions, workshops, networking events, online forums. And through that journey, I was able to connect with individuals, not only Tim Draper, but it was like a snowballing effect. Like I connected with someone called David Metzler. He was not a Silicon Valley investor tech guru, but he was an investor with connections to Silicon Valley. Dave Metzler operates Sport One Marketing, one of America's largest sport and media houses. His co-founder is Warren Moon, NFL Hall of Famer. They have done projects such as the Super Bowl and all of that. So he's very well connected. I connected with Dave. Dave connected me to somebody in Boston who connected me to somebody in California. Then all of a sudden, I'm doing a program by Jason Calcanis, super angel investor into Uber. He has a program called Launch and Scale. I applied, did his program in the Bay Area. When I was there, then I found out about Tim Draper. But interestingly enough, my dad and my sister, they were early investors in a biotech company about 12 years ago, which has interest with Tim Draper. So my dad was actually the one who gave me the first insight into Tim Draper, but then also being part of that network of technology and investments, it's impossible to not hear the name Draper. Once you dig deep enough, you are going to hear the name Draper, you know. So I found out who he was. Pandemic started. I decided to enroll in one of his online training programs. This was like a 2-week entrepreneurship training program. The outcome of it, there were 70 entrepreneurs from across the world online. Our startup, I think we placed like number 7 out of 70. All of the top 10 got like an exclusive one-on-one with Tim Draper. That exclusive one-on-one, we got to present, got feedback, and the advice from him was, it was all conviction. So the idea was everyone who I engaged with, they provided me with that conviction to keep going ahead, or they supported me. Tim Draper was no different. He liked the idea, he wanted to support it, and he invited me to come in person to his entrepreneurship training program, which is called Hero Training, 6 weeks in Silicon Valley, which incorporates Navy SEAL training. It's a very immersive, holistic entrepreneurial development program. So it incorporates all aspects of starting an idea, ideation, all the way to scaling and funding a business, as well as connecting with industry leaders, as well as human performance and survival fitness. So you spend 5 days on Tim's ranch, you shoot guns, you build boats, you camp out, you have Navy SEAL training and stuff like that. So that is where I was able to really develop a relationship with Tim and understanding as well. Tim is a very early investor, meaning he invests in people a lot of the time. So he invests in sometimes before you have even validation or traction. He might be that investor to write you $1 million check, right? So the only way for him to be able to write you that $1 million check is for him to develop a personal relationship with you or experience you, you know? So that is how he judges character. So that 5 days in his estate with Navy SEAL training, he pays attention. Tim is actually camping there as well too and observing the characteristics of the entrepreneurs. So that program, 80 entrepreneurs from across the world, we stay at Tim's hotel. So Tim bought over the Benjamin Franklin Hotel in California and converted it to his personal hotel for entrepreneurs, right? So you can, you stay, he books out his entire hotel for 6 weeks. You stay there, you go through a rigorous program. At the end of it, he potentially invests. So some statistics of that program, so far I think there have been about 5,000 graduates or under 5,000 graduates. It's less than, it's about a 1% acceptance rate because again, it's a global call for action. 80 entrepreneurs participated in my cohort from 23 countries across the world, right? At the end of that program, you have a demo day. Everyone has the opportunity to pitch and present their business. I did not win. I think I got like number 15, but the outcome of it, that brought on board interest from other players within the Silicon Valley VC space, such as Plug and Play Tech Center. So my story was a bit interesting. I was there aiming to get an investment from Tim Draper. Tim Draper liked our project, wanted to back our project, but I got a better deal from Plug and Play Tech Center. So Plug and Play, this is a real story. I was there meeting at Tim Draper's hotel. I got connected with Plug and Play. One of their investors met me for coffee. Literally, I walked downstairs from Tim's hotel, met a Plug and Play investor for coffee at Blue Bottle, and she offered us the deal. And the deal was they offered us a $3 million investment at a $3 million valuation. That was actually better than the other deals I had on the table. I went back to the Draper ecosystem and it was like a good deal. So they encouraged me to take it. but that led to support from other factors of the Draper ecosystem, which we can go into. But that was my journey all the way through to we could a bit of the statistics. Our fintech startup was and is the first ever and still the only ever Caribbean-based fintech to raise Silicon Valley early stage VC funding. And then also 4 years later now, we recently got acquired. So success journey in terms of launching in 2018, raising some capital. This year, we were acquired by a larger firm out of the Bahamas, interestingly enough, founded by my buddy, who's a two-time Olympian, Nicholas Reese, a bit older than me, but they operate a regulated, licensed fintech organization. Pretty big, they're expanding. So that's the story in terms of from getting from idea all the way through the raising some capital. And you would know raising capital as a Black person in Silicon Valley is no easy feat. Some numbers perspective. In Q3 of 2022, $150 billion of venture capital investment funds were deployed. 0.12% of that funding went to Black Americans. 0.12%. Another statistic, less than 1% of Black people, of course, raise Silicon Valley VC funding. You know what I mean? So that is pretty cool. And I think that these stories that you are creating and these stories that you are telling are aiming to shift that balance. You know what I mean? So I'm happy to as well, share this insight. And I know you might have some questions, so let me stop rambling.
We could talk all day, but you inspire me so much. I know that our audience is going to be inspired. Man, well, apparently you inspired and impressed Tim Draper so much that he appointed you as the Caribbean ambassador, which now means that you are responsible for introducing new startups and entrepreneurships and entrepreneurs into the region, into Tim Draper's ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I would have to characterize you just as a classic winner. And we're going to have to put another show together, man, because we just have so much to talk about. But I want to be respectful of your time and everything.
No, I'm just plugging in my phone. It'll be good. Be good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us before we do go. I want to hear more about LUHU. Tell us more about that.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, just to go back in terms of the Tim Draper ecosystem partner, currently beyond just the Caribbean, I've been engaging Tim Draper and the ecosystem to diversify a bit more, and creating a focus in terms of directing funding to Black America. So this is of a specific interest to us. Two categories. One, Tim Draper, he'd have personally expressed interest for me to support in co-creating an athlete entrepreneurship program, which I think will be that entry point for us to serve a lot of Black America through that pivot or that transition from athletic career into a professional life, right? So that is something that I am actively working on right now. But in terms of engaging Tim to the Caribbean, yes, we are responsible for engaging him not only to entrepreneurs and startups, but to governments, universities. So it's beyond just him looking to invest, but it's as well him supporting the building of the ecosystem. And Luhu. So yeah, Luhu, quite an interesting story, but we're aiming to build a Caribbean super app where users can send money to each other, shop e-commerce, pay bills, conduct the government services all in one platform. We face significant challenges in the Caribbean on the regulatory side of things. So in Trinidad, for example, there was no regulatory framework around digital payments and e-money and moving money via digital wallets and all of that. So we were more so early stage. However, the Caribbean is made up of small island states, about 20 plus islands across the Caribbean, and each have their own central bank and different laws. So Bahamas had a regulatory framework that facilitated digital assets, digital currencies, e-money. So opportunities for such businesses are were better for the past couple of years in Bahamas. So to simplify this, we were launching a product with affiliate partners in Trinidad, which was Luhu. We were able to raise some capital, launch our mobile app in both Android and iOS, get some users. We attracted strategic partnerships such as Hyatt, not only Hyatt local, but a global Hyatt brand partnership. The Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, we had Microsoft sponsoring us, we had Visa on our board, we had the largest bank supporting us, and that led to where we had interest and attention across the entire Caribbean as an early mover in the fintech space. And we had, again, each Caribbean island will have its own fintech. So we had to then compete at a regional scale with what those guys in Bahamas are doing. I got connected to my buddy who is a bit older than me, two-time Olympian, but doing the same thing in Bahamas, well more resourced, better technology. So the idea, we had an acqui-hire relationship. They fully funded us. We got their technology. They bought our team. We provided our team relationship capital and then also support to this organization. So now it's called Canoe. Canoe is a licensed, regulated fintech company out of the Bahamas, which is scaling to the entire Caribbean. So now we will officially be launching Canoe in Trinidad in January of 2023 as per an acqui-hire a deal with our partners in the Bahamas. So that is history as well in the Caribbean. There's never been such, we are early movers in the fintech space. So what I can safely say is that we are on track to hopefully be building the first fintech unicorn from the Caribbean. And we are working with the likes of guys like Tim Draper in terms of supporting this. So outside of us representing Tim Draper, we have an ecosystem partner called Draper Startup House. Just briefly, this is one of Tim's newest funds. It's a global expansion program that provides Tim deal flow opportunity across the entire world. Draper Startup House is literally a startup house, a house where entrepreneurs can come co-work, they can stay, they can benefit from events and initiatives to support entrepreneurs. But we write checks. We write checks between 25 to 100,000 in all of our locations across the world. We have the license. So my buddy here, Daniel Francois, he's the CEO of Draper Startup House. We obtained the license for Draper Startup House for the entire Caribbean, where we are building startup houses. So we are actually funded and backed by Tim Draper on building startup houses across the entire Caribbean. We officially have operations in Bahamas and Trinidad and Tobago to date in just about 1 year of operation. And we're building a massive community. We're well aligned to various governments across the Caribbean and really aiming to diversify how financing opportunities have traditionally existed in the Caribbean. We were the first venture capitalist deal in the fintech space in the Caribbean through Luhu. So we're just kind of shifting the parameters and aiming, to create better opportunities for entrepreneurs who do not necessarily or would not have necessarily had access to such resources in the past.
Wow. Zwede, man, congratulations on your amazing accomplishments. Oh my gosh, we got to get you on another show. Wow. Thank you, Zwede Hewitt, for being here on BlackInc.tv. I'm Tony Beaman, your host. What an amazing show today. Hey, I'm gonna put my LinkedIn profile link on the bottom here. Hit me up. That's all time we got for today on BlackInc.tv.